I never imagined that a single misstep could chain me to a life of servitude. When my parents' debts forced me into the mansion, I thought my torment would be simple mundane chores, whispered orders, the occasional smirk of disdain from the young master. But when I first laid eyes on him, my heart did something traitorous, fluttering as if it already knew the storm he would bring. He was perfection in motion, tall, aristocratic, and coldly beautiful. Every word he spoke was sharp, slicing through the air. Yet there was something else, something hidden behind his piercing eyes, like a storm caged within a crystal. The moment he looked at me directly, I felt stripped bare, my shame mingling with a curious heat I couldn't name. The first week was a blur of harsh commands and silent apologies. I burned through my clothes scrubbing floors, my hands raw, yet he watched me, always watching, his expression unreadable, like a marble statue hiding a pulse. And I hated him for it. Hated the way my chest tightened whenever he passed, the way my lips trembled when he asked for tea or arranged the rooms just so. Then came the nights. I discovered it by accident, an unguarded moment in the library, the moonlight slipping through heavy curtains. He was on the floor, kneeling. Not in anger, not in ridicule, but in a way that made my knees go weak. His hands rested lightly on a book I had been reading aloud, eyes closed, lips parted as if whispering apologies to the air. That night, I felt something unravel within me. The walls of duty, fear, and resentment trembled. It was a secret we never spoke aloud. By day, he remained the ruthless prince, and I the obedient servant. But by night, the roles twisted into something unimaginable. I would find him kneeling by the fireplace, tracing the patterns of the rugs with meticulous fingers, his head bowed, waiting. Waiting for what? Couldn't say. And yet, each time, my chest would tighten, my heart daring to hope. I remember the first time he looked up, catching me staring as I carried a tray of tea. His eyes, usually storm gray and cold, softened into something almost human, almost desperate. He whispered my name, and the sound of it shook me more than any insult ever could. "You see me," he said quietly, a tremor in his voice that betrayed the armor of his pride. I wanted to tell him I did, that I had always seen him, beneath the mask of cruelty, behind the perfect posture and sharp words. But I couldn't. Words felt cheap against the weight of the nights we shared in silence. And so I simply nodded, carrying the tea, pretending not to notice the quick flush of his cheeks, the subtle tremor of his hands as he adjusted the silver tray. Days blurred into weeks. Every task became a test of endurance, but also a delicate dance of stolen glances and fleeting touches. I would brush past him while polishing the chandeliers, feeling the heat of his body linger in the air long after he moved. And each night, I would find him kneeling, waiting. Sometimes he would reach for my hand, holding it just long enough to send a jolt through my veins, and then retreat, ashamed of his own longing. I hated him. I hated myself. I hated the way my heart betrayed me with every glance, every inadvertent touch. But beneath that hate was a strange, dizzying thrill, a knowledge that in this twisted world we had created, something real existed. Something forbidden, yes, but undeniably ours. One night, the moon hung low, spilling silver light across the marble floors. He knelt by the grand piano, fingers brushing the keys lightly, creating a melody that trembled with longing. I watched, heart hammering, breath caught between fear and desire. And then he looked up, eyes locking with mine, and for the first time he did not look away. "You don't have to hide anymore," he whispered, voice barely audible over the gentle notes. My chest tightened. Not from me. I wanted to deny it, to claim my pride, to push him away as I had done so many times in my mind. But the truth was sharper than any word. I was already lost. Lost to the quiet surrender in his eyes, lost to the aching beauty of these stolen nights. And yet the morning would come, and the mask would return. The ruthless prince, the obedient servant, the world that demanded distance. But I held on to the memory of those nights, a fragile thread of connection, fragile and luminous, guiding me through the cold days of servitude. Every chore became a test not of strength but of subtle intimacy. The way he would adjust my tie before I served him breakfast, the almost imperceptible brush of his fingers against mine when handing me instructions, the quiet sighs he let slip when he thought I wasn't watching. Each moment etched into my skin, a quiet rebellion against the life we had been forced into. I realized then that he was not cruel. He was trapped in a cage of expectation, of pride, of something heavier than either of us could name. And in that cage he chose Menet because he had to, but because he wanted to. Every kneeling night, every whispered apology, every fleeting touch was a testament to a desire deeper than duty. The fire of our secret burned brighter with every passing day, a flame we nurtured in silence, in the shadows, in moments too fleeting for the world to notice. And though fear lingered, so did hope, fragile and trembling, yet stubbornly alive. The days grew colder, yet the nights burned brighter. One evening, a storm raged outside, winds howling against the mansion windows, but inside, the firelight flickered over our secret world. I found him kneeling again, as always, this time beside the grand staircase. His hands rested on the steps, fingers tracing the wood grain with an almost reverent care. I couldn't help the laugh that escaped Messoft, nervous, full of disbelief. "You're ridiculous," I whispered, my voice low so that the wind outside wouldn't steal it. He tilted his head, a wry smile tugging at his lips, and looked up at me. "Maybe," he admitted, "but you like it." I froze. The words hit me harder than any of his past insults or commanding tones. Did I like it? The answer had always been painfully obvious yes. I liked it more than I should have, more than the world would allow. And yet, he was still kneeling, still showing a vulnerability no one else would ever see. I stepped closer, my own hands trembling, and dared to touch his shoulder. His body shivered at the contact, and for the first time he did not pull away. Instead, he tilted his face toward my hand, eyes dark with emotion, reflecting both fear and desire. "You're not cruel," I said softly, the words spilling out like confessions I had held for weeks. "You're just scared, just like me." He blinked slowly, absorbing each word. Then, almost imperceptibly, he leaned closer until the gap between us was gone. I could feel his breath, warm and tentative, on my skin, and my heart threatened to burst from my chest. For a moment, the world outside ceased to exist. The storm, the mansion, the expectations, they all faded. It was just us, two hearts beating in reckless unison. "Maybe," he whispered, voice rough, "we don't have to be scared anymore." And in that moment, everything shifted. His hands lifted, tentative at first, to cradle my face. My hands found his shoulders, gripping gently, desperately. Then, without any of the hesitation that had defined our nights, he rose from his knees not in servitude, but with me. The power dynamic that had once tormented us became irrelevant. All that mattered was the closeness, the connection that had been growing in secret, fragile yet unstoppable. We laughed then, quietly, breathless, a sound full of relief and disbelief. We had survived our fear, our shame, the walls of expectation. Now, there was only this: the warmth, the softness, the undeniable truth that we belonged to each other in ways neither of us could deny. Over the next weeks, the mansion became a place of whispered promises and gentle exploration. He would still kneel sometimes, playfully, teasing me with the roles we had once been forced into. And I would hum along, heart swelling with a joy I had never known. The tension that had haunted our days softened into laughter, closeness, and shared secrets. One quiet evening, I found him on the terrace, looking out at the American city skyline, lights twinkling like fireflies below. I joined him, slipping my hand into his. He looked at me, a mixture of mischief and tenderness in his gaze. "You've changed me," he said, voice low, almost reverent. "And you've saved me," I replied, my thumb brushing along the back of his hand. "From fear, from loneliness, from myself." He smiled, the sharp angles of his face softening, and pulled me into an embrace that felt like home. The wind ruffled our hair, carrying the faint scent of rain and electricity, and for the first time, I realized that servitude, cruelty, and fear were gone. We had built something entirely our own, fragile, yes, but luminous, alive, and endlessly hopeful. That night he knelt again, but this time it was different. He knelt not as a prince demanding submission, but as a man offering devotion, trust, and love. "I choose you," he murmured, hands lifting mine to his lips. "Always." I laughed softly, tears prickling at the corners of my eyes. "I choose you too." Every night, every day. The mansion no longer felt cold or oppressive. It felt like a sanctuary, a world we had claimed for ourselves. Even the grand rooms, the ornate furniture, the silent hallways, they seemed to recognize us, bowing in quiet witness to our love. And in the quietest corners, in the moonlight spilling across polished floors, we found our rhythm, our intimacy, our joy. For the first time, I saw him without masks. No ruthless prince, no tortured gaze, just him. Just us. And for the first time, he saw me, not as a servant, not as someone beneath him, but as the one who made his heart tremble and his nights full of meaning. We had survived fear, shame, and expectation. We had embraced desire and tenderness, and from it, we had built a connection that neither of us would ever let go. Hand in hand, we watched the city below, knowing that whatever came next, we would face it together. No more kneeling out of fear, only kneeling out of love, devotion, and the quiet passion that had brought us here. And as the first light of dawn broke over the horizon, painting the mansion in shades of gold, I realized something profound. Freedom is not merely escaping a cage. Freedom is finding someone who will kneel by your side, willingly, lovingly, in every storm, every silence, every heartbeat that follows. We stood there, wrapped in each other, the world outside still vast and uncertain, but inside, we had everything. The storm had passed, the nights were ours, and for the first time in my life I was home. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe to stay updated with the latest videos.